This week's movie is proof that you don't need a tight script to deliver an entertaining movie. With its large set designs, fantastic use of color, and delightful characters, this movie puts the script second, and we're okay with that. Let's take a deep dive into the world of Babes in Toyland. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Buena Vista Boys. Today is our holiday, our Christmas, our December, our winter solstice. We're recording this on winter solstice, by the way, Matt. I don't know if you knew that. This is our Christmas episode where we're covering Babes in Toyland. I've never seen this. It's like maybe ubiquitous is the word, but I don't really know what that word means, so it might not be the word. But it's like one of the classic. It's the Nutcracker or Babes in Toyland you always hear about at Christmas time, but I've never seen. I've seen the Nutcracker at like 5th grade when you go to the ballet, and that's it. And Babes in Toyland is not. Put you on a little
bus. They give you a like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then they make you watch a toy fight a rat.
That's right. While they go smoke in the parking lot, and that's it. So that's what's going on. So Matt was like, I really love this movie and you're going to watch it. I'm like, fine.
Like, this is such bullshit. Like, it always paints this picture. I'm like on the phone fighting for my life. We really need to do this one. It just seemed like, do they even have, like, does Disney even have another Christmas-esque movie in the timeline that we're looking at between the 50s and the 80s? I honestly can't recall.
I don't know. I don't know. To be honest with you, I would not have known that this movie, like without thinking about it or seeing it or whatever, I would not have known that this is a Christmas movie. I wouldn't, if you go, hey, what's a live action Christmas movie from Disney? I would not say Babes in Toyland.
Yeah. And it's weird because for some reason, I think there's an association there because we'll talk later. There's some iconography from this that they started using in the theater, or in the parks and everything.
Yeah.
And at Christmas time. So it's like, there's a kind of a tacit association, but it's like, it does take a long time to get this Christmas payoff. Like if you almost don't already know or already have that connection,
right? You're
watching this movie going, this could easily be an Easter movie, the springtime.
just
a movie. It's just a movie.
Just a movie, man. Yeah. This is for the 4th night on Hanukkah as you watch Babes in Toyland. And that's it. Yeah. It's very weird. I think it's like an hour in and then you go like, oh, because they say the word Christmas. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. It's almost like an hour in, they shift the entire movie to something else. It's like they had 2 short plays that they just like stitched together,
which is very funny because that is very much the Walt Disney, sort of media plan for this period of like the 50s and 60s and maybe even the 70s, where either you have TV shows that you mash together to make a movie, or you take a movie and you cut it together or cut it apart to make a TV show, or both sometimes. And I mean, they did this too, and it's a very good way to recycle content. We think about Disney now going, oh, they're putting IP in the parks and they're just recycling content and there's nothing creative or whatever. But they've sort of always been doing that, where like they took Babes in Toyland and they cut it up and they put it on TV into 2 episodes. And it's like, well, yeah, I don't know. So anyway, it's very interesting to me. Like nothing new is actually new. Everything old is new again. I mentioned like that a couple times in my notes. Like there's some culture war things that pop up, and this is done in 1961. And there's definitely lines in here that I go like, I've just heard this on the news last week. People complaining about this stuff. So
my gosh. Yeah. When we get to some stuff with the Nets character later, it's wild how relevant a lot of that is even now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wish, you're like, this is 61. You wish that we'd taken one step forward.
Right, because you hear about, and maybe this makes no sense now, but you hear about the 50s and 60s as kind of like an ideal time or idyllic time for, some people, I guess. Because that's like, where we want
portions and groups.
Right, yeah. Where we want to get back to, or, that was a simpler time when there wasn't but it wasn't that. It's just different levels or different shades of discomfort, no pun intended, I suppose. But yeah, we'll get to some of that stuff. It's interesting. I don't know. It's nothing.
Different shaped houses, different colored carpets.
Yeah, smaller homes, bigger cars, same problems. And that's I guess where we'll leave it. But yeah, there were a lot of parts about this movie that I absolutely loved, and I talk about some of these in my notes. Some I just didn't really, I'm not really a musical theater guy. So it's hard for me to watch musicals. It's hard for me to watch dancing, like no context singing and dancing. Tough. I don't enjoy it very much. But there were things in here that stick out to me that I really liked. And it's probably one of the first movies we've seen so far that I would probably watch this a couple. Like I would have no problem putting this on for like my kid.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in the movie as far as that goes. There aren't a lot of like, outside of the bad guys like directly talking about, killing people. There's really not a lot of questionable content. It really is just like a lark. It's a rollick. It's supposed to be good fun.
Yeah.
And that's how they shape it up.
Yeah, it kind of is to a certain extent. You got to have a little something for everybody. And again, it's the storytelling. It's the evolution of storytelling, in the moving picture media. Yeah. The talkies were from, like the mid 20s, like we're sort of still learning how to tell stories even now. But now there's like a formula and a beat to it and whatever. But I feel like this is definitely, let's try to have a mix of things for kids and things for adults. And you have the adult humor and you have some like dark jokes and then you have, dancing toys.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the content kind of like leads to that. Like this isn't West Side Story. This isn't about two gangs fighting. This is about a village that's overseen by Mother Goose. And there's like a guy who, holds pies and doesn't drop them. And a guy who jumps over a candlestick. That's like his whole job. Like, I don't know what people would be expecting going into this, like they made the set look cartoonish because we're talking about cartoonish things.
Yes. Yes, I do. You're absolutely right.
It would be really weird if they took a hard, gritty Zack Snyder stance on a lot of this material.
Quentin Tarantino presents Babes in Toyland.
Yeah.
But, but good.
Tom's dancing with no shoes on. Of course he is.
All right, well, let's get into it. What do you think?
Sounds good. Let's rip.
The very first line on my notes says, "This movie is best viewed on cough syrup." And I will never go back on that statement. This movie is bizarre. The title cards, again, in the movies back then, they have the cast and the crew and the writers and all that kind of stuff ahead of the actual opening of the movie. So when it gets to the cast, the title cards have everyone else's first and last name on it, right? But for Annette Funicello, it's just Annette. Because she was like hardcore being branded. She was like 18 or 19 when this was shot. I think she was 19 when it was released. So, she's like, it's her second movie release of the year. It's Annette. It's just Annette. Cher. It's Madonna. That's what I know. It is.
And looking through the lens of now, that feels like such a piece of property thing to do.
Yeah.
Because she's worked for them for a long time, but it's like, yeah, she doesn't need a last name. That's Annette. Everyone knows Annette. Annette, you're fine with it, right, Annette? Yeah, you're fine.
Part of me, the darker part of me wonders if the conversation in the boardroom was about like Funicello sounded too ethnic. So they're like, let's not do, it's a little too Italian. We're Italianing it up here a little bit. So let's just drop it. Let's go Annette. That's a very like American sounding name. Yeah. Let's just stick with that. Let's make her Annette. But, I don't know.
Annette Fun. That's right. What we're going to change your name to that.
After the title cards, we come up on a blue curtain. It's a real, curtain. Most of the stuff is real, right? There's some cartoon, there's some sketching, but for the most part, it's all people. A spotlight pops up on the curtain, and from in between the two curtains, out pops the head of a goose puppet who introduces himself as Sylvester J. Goose. Now, the puppeteering on this is not like super great, but, what do you want, man?
Yeah.
Syl goes on to introduce Mother Goose, who steps out, and she's like holding Syl the goose, or he says, silly goose. Womp, womp, womp. Mother Goose goes on to invite us to a wedding in Mother Goose Village, to which Syl is excited for. And we have a pretty neat trick, already here. And that is Mother Goose is holding Syl, and it's like I guess you call it a life-size goose puppet, with like a body and everything, right?
Yeah.
While Syl is talking. So Syl is like moving his mouth, and she's holding him under one arm. He's tucked under one arm. And at first, I wasn't sure if like someone was behind her operating the puppet. That's what I imagined. But when the curtains open behind her, she turns around to like look at the set and like move the story forward. But there's nobody behind her. So I had to go back and watch it again and again to figure out how they did it. And the way it looks like to me is they had a fake arm around the puppet.
Yeah.
And there's a hand, because you can see her hand like holding the supporting the lower breast.
Yeah, it's a good hand.
It's a good hand. And I didn't see it because it's at such an angle. It's like the upper stomach, lower breast on the goose. So it's like you get a weird angle at it. And it looks great. So at first pass, I was like, I don't know how they're doing this. And then I went back and I was like, oh, okay, that's probably it. So her arm is operating the mouth, but her fake arm is like around. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And they still use that all the time. So like if you go to Universal Studios or these Jurassic Park, like walkthrough pop-ups, they have dinosaurs that they'll hold. And so it's like the guys have like two gloves on. And so they'll be holding the dinosaur with this gloved arm, but they'll be running the dinosaur. And because the gloves match, it looks totally normal.
Right.
Like false arm puppeteering, I think is what I looked up.
See, there you go. That's it.
Yeah.
So anyway, the curtains open and here we are with the very first little bit of fun here.
At this time, it is with unmitigated pleasure.
Sylvester, talk faster.
Talk faster? You're lucky to find a goose who can talk at all. As I was saying, it is my pleasure to present your hostess for this occasion, weighing 189 pounds of...
Sylvester!
I present the one and only Mother Goose.
Thank you, Sylvester. Blabbermouth. I'm here to invite you to a celebration in our village. Tomorrow is the wedding of Tom and Mary.
Two of my closest friends.
I know. So put on your best smile, set free your imagination, and come with us to Mother Goose Village. Sylvester?
All right, boys, open the curtains.
In the square, in the Mother Goose Village Square, all the people gather when there's some excitement in the air. See how they run, for they always have lots of fun, in exchanging bits of gossip and the news of everyone. Come join the crowd, you'll be happy and mighty proud, to be welcome where so few outsiders ever are allowed. You'll mingle with the people, you'll meet everybody there.
All right, so that's what's happening. So it's our first dance number, our first song, and Mother Goose Village looks an awful lot like Fantasyland, I'll be honest. It was very, funny because it's, 61, so the park has been open 6 years now. So, of course, it's going to look, slightly similar, but same kind of pastels, different window shapes or whatever. So,
yeah.
What helps moving forward is to think of this as a play rather than a movie, and the layout will kind of make more sense. Like this is a giant sound stage is what's happening.
Yeah.
And it looks like most of the houses are facades. There's some, full props in front, but for the most part, they're like cardboard cutouts. Behind that, you have rolling green hills, and behind that protrudes a large castle that looks awfully familiar. I don't know if you noticed it. It looks exactly like Cinderella Castle from Disneyland.
Oh, that's so strange.
Yeah,
I wonder if they knew somebody at Disney at the time.
I wonder why they did that. I mean, look at that thing. This is like, all right, that's great, man. So this number is introducing us all to the Mother Goose characters. And for those of you who don't know, Mother Goose is like the Brothers Grimm. It's just, an overarching storyteller, but there's Little Bo Peep, that kind of stuff. So yeah, you just heard we have Little Bo Peep enter with multicolored sheep. They dyed all these poor sheep like pastel colors. Like you said, it could be an Easter movie based on this.
This opening is just so pastel. I'm expecting eggs at any point.
Yeah. Then Jack and Jill saunter out, waving to all the townspeople they already know, and we get more dancing. And like I was saying before, I'm such a lousy musical enjoyer because I'm sitting here wondering why we're doing all these little hops and skips, not just like moving the plot forward. Eventually, we get introduced to Jack, who jumps over the candlestick. You know, that Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, blah, 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 blah. Simple Simon and all his pies.
One of my favorite parts when I was a kid, absolutely, the candlestick moving up, I just loved it. That I didn't understand how they did it. And so as a kid, when I watched this movie, I was just fascinated at how they were getting this candle to go higher when there's the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the ground is right there. Where is more candle coming from?
It's weird. That whole scene with not Simple Simon, Jack be nimble, right? That's funny to me. It's really clever. But yeah, we get Jack jumping over the candlestick. We get Simple Simon with his pies. Probably the weirdest group to me were the lemonade dancers.
Yes.
Which were just women dancing in yellow costumes, and they were serving lemonade to everyone in a very jaunty fashion.
Yeah.
That was their thing. It's like, here are the lemonade dancers.
Because I don't remember any kind of lyrics about lemonade. Like, I don't remember a lemonade rhyme.
These people love lemonade. Their whole town economy runs on lemonade. I feel like that's just what it is.
Somebody's got to be making money.
Bursting out of one of these houses come Tom and Mary. The townspeople form a circle around them, and as the couple foxtrots around the square, everyone raises their glasses of lemonade to them as they pass. Very beautiful, very Mormon. As they all come together to cheers the soon-to-be couple with their glasses of what are probably more lemonade-colored resin, the camera pulls back and pans over to a decrepit house on the hill. This very classic 60s cartoon haunted house. You know, it's like everything's kind of wonky. From the outside, it's going to fall down, right? The shutters are busted off, wrought iron fencing all over, trees with no leaves. We push in and we find a well-dressed villain type. Top hat, like stovepipe top hat, right? Cape, pencil mustache. I believe you would call it even a moustache. That's how fancy it is.
It's that villainous. It's a moustache.
And he's watching the party go down on the village down below. And I love this shot because the lighting is very Tim Burton. There's a lime green gel lighting that hits the wall behind him. And so it pops him out, but it adds a lot of depth to this very small space. It looks very modern for the time. And it's a very nice contrast to all the pastels from the village that we just got.
And he's got this crinkled eyeglass. It's like this spyglass that like bends in all these different shapes like a cartoon.
Yes. Yeah.
He's looking down on the village with it.
Yeah,
oh man. It's like nothing sets the scene better.
Anyway, his name is Mr. Barnaby, and he goes on to say that when Mary gets married, she will inherit some money. So therefore he has to be the one to marry Mary and not Tom. He calls his two henchmen Gonzigo and Rodrigo, who pop up from underneath the windowsill very, very close to his lower half, which is I found very awkward, but whatever.
What were they doing down there?
Climbing down to the first floor of the house, the bad guy, who in true Disney fashion hasn't been named yet, like we don't really know, I think at that point, is about to give his henchmen some tasks. But I need to tell you first how much I love this set design. Like I said, it's very Tim Burton, but there's also some hints of like the Haunted Mansion attic scene in here as well, especially like with the colored gels are all over the lighting. Parts of this room.
He's got this beautiful purple
Yes.
Coming from the back corner.
Yeah, it's like, the Joker in the 60s Batman. It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
It's, parts of the room are blocked off in purples and greens. The crap that's lying about is beat up and dented. Bricks in the wall are like sideways and vertical, and as are the wooden slats in the supports. It's just a very, very cool set. But here's a neat little song here.
Now, gentlemen, it is said you'll do anything for money. You see, your infamous reputation is widespread.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Barnaby.
Now, make note while I plan this little caper. Mark this down.
Mark this down.
Item 1.
Item 1.
Kidnap Tom.
Kidnap Tom. No, kidnap him.
Item 2.
Item 2.
Throw him in the sea.
Throw him in the sea. No, just throw him in the sea.
Item 3.
Item 3.
Mary Sheep. These sheep support her. Somehow I must thwart her. She's much too independent with them, therefore he must be without them. Steal the sheep.
Steal the sheep.
No, steal them.
Anything else, Mr. Barnaby?
That's all for now, gentlemen, and when this deed is through, this tidy stipend is for you.
A pittance. Preposterous. This experience should make us wiser. We do not do business with a miser. Come, Rodrigo. We are wasting our time.
Peace out, dude. You're gonna hire dudes to do 3 evil things and you're gonna give them 2 pence? No, they don't want that. So they're offended by how little this man is offering to pay them to kill Tom and to steal Mary's sheep. So they head towards the door. And just then, Barnaby grabs a quilt off this mound and reveals a large piggy bank. And he opens a hatch on the side, and a beam of golden light smashes these 2 men in the back and actually pins them against the wall that they're door they're heading to. Which is, I didn't catch until I was pulling clips. Like, oh, they're actually like smashed against. That's very funny. The weight of the light. Dollar signs are floating around this beam of light, and even a couple of English pound signs.
Yes, I saw that.
And the allure of more money draws them back. We get a rather pleasant song about how much this man wants Mary's money, and basically recaps the scene we just watched. And one thing I noticed here is that the henchman duo, the smaller is mute, and he does look an awful lot like Teller from Penn and Teller. And I was like picking this out to begin with, like, you know, Penn is classically a bigger guy. Teller is a shorter, thinner guy. Penn talks a lot. Teller doesn't talk at all. And that's exactly what's going on here.
Yeah. Well, they have both a Laurel and Hardy situation going on too, a little bit. And then when I think, is it Rodrigo? He's the mute. Later, when he's like got a coat and it's like full of like a large hammer and a small hammer, that's very much a Harpo Marx trick from the Marx Brothers. He used to always have the big coat, and he would open it up and it would be like horns and gadgets and hammers, anything they need to break into somewhere.
And well, it's funny because in reading about these the actors, they're all vaudeville guys. And I read something where one of them, I forget which one, who was starting in vaudeville, he was advised to copy basically his favorite vaudeville performer when he made his own vaudeville show. So I think there is a lot of like early on in this Hollywood kind of era, a lot of borrowing from other people. But I also think there was some, not throwbacks, but like paying homage to.
Oh yeah,
as well.
I think there's like almost like archetypal style characters.
Yeah.
And so it's like when they gave him this character, they're like, you're playing this style of character. You know, you're going to play the mute guy who's got a coat full of nonsense. Like that's a style.
Yeah. Let's see. So Rodrigo hasn't said a word yet. And during the singing parts of this song, which I'll play here in a second, he isn't singing along either because he's mute, but he's doing all the motions and dancing along. And it almost seems harder. I mean, to do this.
Gonzago, Rodrigo, let us ski.
I embezzle and I swindle and I keep 2 sets of books, and the income tax collector always gives me dirty looks. Now the thought of Mary's money has a very strong appeal, so underhandedly I've planned another shady deal, and I won't be happy till I get it. Unwittingly, some paper she will sign. She will never have a hint that in the finer print her inheritance is mine, all mine.
We enjoy committing mayhem for a monetary gain, and we specialize in crimes which are completely inhumane. Now we're on our way to steal some sheep and drown a boy at sea. And then directly we'll collect a very handsome fee. And we won't be happy till we get it. In some laguna body, soon we'll splash. We're eager to proceed to do this evil deed, just as long as we
This is
are
dark,
ready.
man. Super
I know.
dark. I love that.
The dancing makes it so much more terrifying.
Yes. Yeah. It's very, I agree.
That's what I love about it, is the fact that you have these two men who are like completely fine with going out, stealing a guy, throwing him in the ocean. These are totally perfectly, when they
normal
say
stuff.
these acts are completely inhumane, I mean, that sends a chill up your spine.
Especially because they're jaunty about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These guys don't look like they're any trouble at all.
No, not at
And
all.
yet you now know that they have a well-known history and reputation of getting nasty shit done.
Yeah. So we end the song and we cut to the outside of Mary's house as the disembodied singers of the movie remind me of who this is in Mother Goose lore. It's, Mary, Mary, quite contrary. How does your garden grow? If you ever heard that, that's who we're talking about. Yada, yada, yada. So these two henchmen are plotting in the bushes, and there's some, like you were saying, Matt, Laurel and Hardy adjacent gags. There are some Laurel and Hardy adjacent gags happening that are better seen than, heard, if you know what I mean. So Jack and Mary enter this courtyard and we get another song. And sometimes in musical numbers, actors can usually both sing and act,
Yeah.
this man cannot.
I've witnessed it.
Yeah, he cannot do that. He can sing, but his face is weird. He's pushing his jaw and hair in unnatural positions as he's singing. And I don't know, his oddities, his behavior is only amplified when Annette starts her part of the duet, because she looks very natural, very unforced, and you can tell why she's a star, in a rising star. He looks like someone put tacks in his shoes.
She has a lot of poise.
Yeah, but then at times she seems like rather disinterested in Jack too, so she's clearly still green around the gills. And
Tom.
they're all just
His
learning.
name is Tom.
Tom, yeah, whatever, who cares? Oh yeah, Jack, that's right. I realized for a couple of paragraphs I was calling him Jack for some reason, but no, it's Tom. So yeah.
But yeah, no, I felt the same way. I kind of wondered what this scene served, because they don't really act deeply in love. He seems like they're supposed to be getting married, and it feels like he's still almost trying to convince her that this is a good idea.
Well,
she seems very flat.
and she is kind of looks like she's wavering. So if my fiance looked at me like that, I would feel like I would have to keep convincing her too. Like, no, this is a good idea for both of us. This is fine.
Yeah.
This is great. So they say goodbye after their number, and it kind of seems that neither actor really wanted to be there in the first place. As Tom departs, the two henchmen stay true to their task and whack this man on the noggin, driving his feet into the ground, which is a very clever visual effect. There were a lot of these little cute moments in this movie. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
The sack is tossed over him, and we're pushing into the next scene with Tom in a wheelbarrow and the two villains on their way to toss this man into the sea. But as they sing their way through the woods, they instead stumble upon a gypsy camp.
Rodrigo, I have an idea. Why don't we sell Tom to the gypsies and that way collect for him twice, understand? Listen, Barnaby is paying us to get rid of Tom. But if instead of throwing Tom into the sea, we sell him to the gypsies, we'll be paid for him again. Once by Barnaby and once by the gypsies. Can't you see that? Right. Now this young man could fetch a fancy price. Why throw him in the sea? We'll trick old Barnaby and we'll find ourselves collecting twice. To the gypsies! We won't be happy till we get it. No, we won't be happy.
That's the new plan, Matt. They sell they sell Tom to the gypsies.
Yeah.
And off they traipse towards the gypsy village. It's funny because like my dad grew up in Greece, and he would tell me stories about like my grandma and grandpa, or my yaya and papu, if you will, telling all the kids that if they didn't behave or whatever, the gypsies would come and steal them. And that's why. So this line kind of struck home for me because number one, gypsies aren't known for buying babies; they're known for stealing them. That's always like the small poor village, boogeyman is not a creature; it's a gypsy. And then also, I don't know. Every time I heard it, I was like, oh, my dad wrote this. Be careful, the gypsies will come for you. I don't even think you're supposed to say gypsy now. I think that's like been developed as like a thing. But.
Isn't it like Roma?
Yeah, well, yeah, like the Roman the gypsies from like Romania and stuff. I think that they're actual like race, but I don't think that the gypsies in like Greece were. I think that, but I don't know. Who knows?
Buddy, I'm going to tell you,
I apologize.
I stay out a lot of that politics.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Sorry to any gypsies out there. So the next day, we're in Mary's house. She's preparing her dress for the wedding, which is that day, actually, along with Mother Goose. And Mr. Barnaby enters to offer his congratulations to her on their marriage. And he's, very creepy. Like, no one likes him.
There's a good bit, though. Can I mention that? So
Sure,
she's in front of the mirror, right? Just real quick. And is that supposed to be a joke where she's like standing in front of the mirror in the white dress and then she backs up and you find out that the dress is like a freestanding form that she's like walked into?
I don't know that it's what do you mean? Like a joke?
Like is that like a joke? Like almost like Airplane, how they like is that supposed to be a visual gag?
You know what? I think it's a visual gag, but I think it's just, it's on a form and she later goes up and like is sewing it. She's like stitching it while it's on. So I think it's like a tailor's joke,
Because I just thought that was funny.
Yeah,
she's like, because she's in it and it looks totally fine.
Yeah.
And then she steps back from it. And it's like, oh, that was kind of a fake dress.
Yeah. And
kind of cool.
This movie does have a lot of those little sight gags where I don't think there's a reason other than it's a cool visual trick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suddenly, Mr. Barnaby looks out the window and sees his two henchmen approaching, but nobody knows that they work together, even though this is a small town. Oh, look, he says, shipwrecked sailors. Whatever could they want? All right, man. Now, I really like this scene. It's just weird enough to be funny without being overly sweet, if that makes sense. If you haven't seen it, watch it and then remember what I said, because it's weird, but not too weird.
Yeah.
So the two men sing a song about how Tom was at sea when his boat sank, and these two men were on board with him, I guess. They pull out a note and they say the sea washed the words away, but they're going to try to read whatever was on there anyway. Turns out the note says Tom couldn't afford to marry Mary, and she should really just marry Barnaby instead, which is, of course, classically what everyone would say. Here's a little bit of that.
I am poor, the letter reads, and can't support you. And it's best I sail away and set you free. Noble lady that you are, you'd be better off by far if you were to marry wealthy Barnaby. We advise you to forget him now, Miss Mary. Our condolences to you we do extend. But we'll blame you not, my dear, if you care to shed a tear for the way he met his most untimely end. Slowly, slowly, he sank into the sea. To the very bottom, he sank into the sea.
Which, keep in mind, this is their wedding day. And they're going like, oh, yeah, he died terribly slowly. He was drowning. But, marry Barnaby instead.
Well, but also this shows how dumb everyone in this town is. There's not one, except for the goose.
Yeah.
There's not one moment of logic being brought up by anyone.
Because what I was waiting for, honestly, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit, because it's also, look, this is a fairy tale book, who cares?
Yeah.
But I was waiting for Mary to go like, what are you talking about? Tom doesn't have a boat. Why would he be captaining a boat? I just saw him, like he just left last night. Why would he be, what are you talking about?
Tom works in the candy cane factory. He doesn't have a job on a boat.
Yeah, why is he in the sea?
He gets dreadfully seasick.
Also, I have access.
He can't even take a bath.
I have access to his bank account for the last 4 months while we've been dating. He has plenty. It's fine. We're fine. It's all good.
Yeah, he hasn't used his debit card in like 3 days. It's
The scene is full of water gags. In case you heard some water trickling, but didn't really place it in the clip. And they tie into the kind of death at sea thing. And, every time
they're in a puddle that gets deeper and deeper, and it's awesome. It's a very funny gag.
It's cute. Yeah. It's all timed very well. Overall, it's a very funny scene. Very clever, even though they're delivering news about untimely drownings and death. They do a great job. It's very, very good. Throughout a very creepy song and dance number, Barnaby shoots his shot at Mary, and despite Mary literally just finding out her fiance died on their wedding day, like 5 minutes before, but it's okay. He's still going for it. And as he's doing the dance, I thought of like a taller Gomez Adams, but less charm.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I was getting. It's still a cute scene, but it's about 4 minutes too long. Mary shoots him down and says that she has to care for her sheep, which is the cue for the little Bo Peep to rush in with a bunch of townsfolk to sing a song of woe about how little Bo Peep's sheep have suddenly gone missing. And they don't really explain the correlation between Mary and little Bo Peep and her sheep, but you know, I'm trying not to read into it.
Talk about how the sheep in particular are an income to Mary, but you don't know that little Bo Peep or anyone else live with her.
Right. Well, because it's little Bo Peep lost her sheep. So
it's not Mary quite contrary. How do your sheep grow?
Right. Yeah. She's a gardener, I guess. I don't know, man. She sells her puppy dog tails. No, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's very weird.
Yeah. At the end of her number, a little boy called Bobby runs in and says her sheep are actually in the forest of no return because he saw the tracks go into the forest.
Yeah.
Which was enough to force the crowd to disperse, muttering under their breath, like, oh, well, it's in the name.
They're gone. I mean,
they're not coming back. It's in the name, kid.
You saw the signs, dummy. Like, no one comes back from there.
So we now find Mary in her house. And after putting all these kids to bed, I guess they're just orphans, which is kind of sad too. Like, children's stories are weird because there's always a lot of orphans, but there's never like an explanation about how the parents died, like how they became orphans.
Yeah. It's also, what's really offensive is the fact that this town has like 27 people in it and no one wants to adopt these orphans.
I know, right? They're like, oh,
no,
Mary's
really?
got it. Mary's got it. all she has to do is garden. And then she gets a month. Maybe she gets a stipend, from the city council. So afterwards, she heads downstairs to do what any red-blooded American of literally any decade does: complain about the price of eggs.
Bills, bills, bills. The price of milk and eggs and bread is rising every day. Now with our bank book in the red, these bills are hard to pay. If we stop buying chocolate cake and lived on green string beans, exactly how much would it take to live within our means? Oh, oh, oh. Put down beans and cross out cake, let me see. Oh dear me, what a job to undertake. Milk plus bread, oh my head. Add, subtract, and multiply till you're overcome. This is much too hard for us, we can't do the sum.
It's like this movie, this song is like 5 minutes of this, but it's done really well. And like the different song or the different voices you heard were all Annette, but they were different shots of her in like monochromatic color. So she was like, the angel on the shoulder and the devil, but instead of that, it's just she's doing her own kind of chorus. But it's all done really well. What I just cut again, because I was wondering how the scene transitioned, because they're in her living room, right? And so she sits down at her very ornate little desk complaining about, oh, well, I guess we can't buy chocolate cake anymore because we're poor. I'm like, why don't you make it? It's cheap. It's easy to do.
The whole thing is like, I don't know how numbers work. Like one of the lines is milk plus bread. Oh, my head. Oh, me lady, numbers hurty.
That's why you can't balance your checkbook. You got to add milk plus bread. No, it's the cost of those things. You add the numbers. You can't add milk plus bread. But she sits down,
shoving milk into bread.
Yeah, and like it's kind of dark behind her, and then we're gonna transition to the next scene, so everything gets dark, and then right behind her, you see this kind of like purple light, looks like clouds, where like that gets switched on, and then we sort of do like a tiny little jump cut, and then she's behind a green screen with a similar light pattern behind her. I don't know. I thought it was really clever. Like how did they get from practical into the green screen? This is a neat transition. I liked it a lot.
The whole song, you know, content aside, is beautiful.
Yes.
Like, because they have multiple times where she splits out into these great colors: purple, green, pink.
Yeah.
I think like orange. Is one of them orange?
I don't know.
And they do it 3 different ways. Like they have her coming out of a mirror this one point, which is awesome looking. Yeah, it's really nice outside of the idea that Mary is just overwhelmed with how to pay a mortgage and stay on a budget.
Yeah.
You know, that's what she needs a man for. She's like, I should maybe marry this Barnaby because I can't do numbers. Oh my gosh, I'm so, with my brain, it hurts.
She even goes like, cross out chocolate cake. What do you like? How hard is this, dog? Just don't buy chocolate cake. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But whatever, it's fine. Her song is a 5-minute piece about if she should marry Barnaby or not. There's a bunch of animated sequences, and it's, again, all done really well. It's very creative stuff. Think Alice in Wonderland is kind of what I put down. So she leaves her house, coming to the conclusion that she should probably cave, and she heads to Barnaby's house, while the children, having heard her song, decide it's up to them to go into the forest to find the sheep so Mary won't have to marry Barnaby, which is very kind. But also,
yeah,
how does Mary make money on the sheep?
This is my biggest question.
And it can't be that much because she's still in the red and she can't afford her bills anyway. So it's like the sheep aren't going to matter.
Yeah, she walked up to the table saying bills, bills, bills. Like if she was doing well in the sheep market,
yeah,
she would not be worried about what she's going to pay. She would have a nice, healthy savings to float on.
Emergency fund and everything, man.
Yeah.
So shortly thereafter, the 2 henchmen, Gonzago and Rodrigo, I think, wander through the town, ringing a bell and gathering all the folks in the square so Barnaby can announce that Mary is going to marry him. Everyone is shocked, and literally shocked, and you get the sense that literally nobody there likes Barnaby. But they don't like Mary enough to help her pay her bills either, even though she's caring for 5 kids that probably aren't hers.
Again, that nobody will even adopt.
That's right.
So this town, for all the lemonade drinking these jackasses do, no one's really that nice.
Lemonade, come to my aid.
Remember that when that guy like burned his butt jumping over the candle and everyone laughed at him instead of helping him?
Well, the kids did throw water on him.
It took 2 kids to half-ass throw some water on his butt.
Barnaby says that he's hired some gypsies to come perform and help celebrate the wedding, which is very nice, but I couldn't help but think again, they just woke the whole town up. And now the town are forced to sit through their neighbor's loud party that nobody asked for in the first place and nobody's happy about in the second place.
Yeah.
And of course, these are the very same gypsies that the boys sold Tom to. And we get what feels like an eternity of leaping, dancing, spinning, and shouting, hey. And we cut to Tom in a gypsy wagon, putting on a fake nose and a wig. And he steps out and does a number as an old gypsy woman in a very high register. And I know it's meant to be annoying, but it really is worse than that. It's very annoying.
It's very grating. Her name is supposed to be Floretta, by the way. It took me forever to hear that.
I couldn't do this without subtitles.
Yeah, I had to look it up as well. But Floretta, everyone, is this character's name.
That's right. And how long has it been since they sold Tom to the gypsies? A day? Did they have time to rehearse a whole number with Tom and care? You know what I mean?
Well, when they sold him, they said to the guys, they go, well, how much dance experience does he have?
Right.
What he's like,
what's
well,
his
I don't
vocal
know.
range? Is he? Yeah.
Because I've gone to 2 years of Juilliard.
Yeah. Of course, Tom as the gypsy tells Mary that Tom is by himself in the third person is actually alive. And then he reads the fortune of Barnaby and makes Barnaby look like a goof or some kind of loser. And then he does the big reveal to Mary. So here's that part of the song.
Now this is the palm of a cat, a sly reprobate and a mean one, corrupt and malicious, conniving and vicious, a scoundrel if ever I've seen one. He seeks a young maid for his wife, while plotting her sweethearts of done. The crimes he's involved in will one day be solved and result in his utter destruction. goodbye to Floretta.
And hello to Tom.
There you go. So he says
Parts
hello.
the red robes.
he goes hello to Tom, and then he pulls off the wig, and then like his robes explode off of him.
That's
and
amazing.
it's all very funny to me, but it was the voice that he picked. It was very, and I know it reversed, but it sounded like Carol Kane in Scrooged.
Yeah.
Oh, that one, or I can't do it, but it was like, oh, okay.
I'm gonna fix your mouth so it won't hold soup.
And honestly, that was the best acting that Tom had done the whole entire movie.
Thank you for saying it,
It was
because
the
that's
best.
what I was about to go. Is where was this Floretta energy for the rest of this movie?
Big Floretta energy, baby.
Big Floretta energy over here.
So the two embrace, the town gathers around them, and Barnaby flees with his henchmen. So at this point, I'm thinking the movie is over, and I texted you, and I go, "Wow, I still have an hour to go. Where can this go?"
We solved it.
Yeah, we solved it. We figured it out. But we fade up, and we push in through some brush into the forest of no return. And the kids, unbeknownst to them, they're not there, so they don't know that Tom is back. The kids are still looking for the sheep. And let me tell you, the colors and the set design are beyond description in this swamp. It's more like a swamp or a bog than a forest, with dead trees and moss everywhere, and they all have their own color spots. It's a lot like the attic in Barnaby's spot, but exquisite vibes. Everything is awash in the same kind of greens and purples from earlier. It's beautiful.
It's layered. It's textured.
It's so
there's
good, dude.
grass. There's trees, and there's like multi levels. The camera, when it goes, sort of shoots through, there's depth and lots of it.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I loved it a lot. So the kids are running around in like a literal knot, calling for the sheep. Like, sheep. We pop back to Mary and Tom to learn the kids are in the forest, and they skedaddle. So the kids left a note, and Mary and Tom read it, and they go, well, we got to go help them. So then they leave. It's like really shortcuts. And now we're back again to the kids, who are surrounded by very large singing trees.
Here she
Hey! Ooh, say! Can't you read? Can't you see? This is private property. Aren't the signs plain and clear? No one is allowed in here. But since you're here, you should know we will never let you go. You can cry, you can shout, but you can't get out. This is a forest of no return. This is a forest of no return. Those who stumble in, those who fumble in, never can get out.
We have come seeking sheep.
Now alas, you're in too deep.
We don't mean any harm.
You have caused us great alarm.
Then we'll be off on our way.
Sorry, but you'll have to stay.
We will cry, we will shout.
Till you can't get out. This is a forest.
Yeah,
of
it's great.
no
It's a good scene. I love it. Mary and Tom hear the kids crying for help and rush in to save them from the trees, which of course go back to being trees when Mary and Tom arrive, right? So no matter how sincere the kids are, Mary and Tom refuse to believe the kids that the trees were alive and wouldn't let them leave. They sung a whole song about how we can't leave, and like, okay, whatever, dude. Instead of just going home, which it couldn't have been that far away, Tom, in his ever, forming brilliance, decides it's too dark to go home, and they should all sleep right there in the middle of the forest of no return.
Well, they can't leave. It's in the fine print. There's like 17 signs that say it. So why fight it?
Apparently not. As the two sing the kids to sleep, we see Barnabas spying on them from the hedges, the forest hedges. Maybe behind a log. I couldn't remember, but I thought that was funny. So our party falls asleep, and then right as Barnabas. See,
Barnaby.
now I forget because I can't.
Can I tell you what I found out?
Yeah.
His full name is Barnaby Barnacle.
Okay. I like that somehow more. Our party falls asleep and then is woken up in the morning by all the trees screaming, "Wake up, wake up, wake up." And then we finally learn what will happen to them now that everybody's awake. They must be delivered to the toy maker, who is the head of Toyland, because apparently the Forest of No Return is part of the Toyland, realm or whatever. And everyone's kind of surprised by that. And I feel like, do you ever leave your village? Like, you don't know you're the toy maker you're shocked at. Forest of No Return has singing trees. You didn't know that?
Well, because you never come back from it.
Well, I guess not.
You never come back from the Forest of No Return. But I have two things. One, how do they know about Toyland if no one ever comes back from the Forest of No Return, which is the only way to get to Toyland?
There you go.
Two, why, if no one ever comes out of the Forest of No Return, I get why the kids would go in there because they're kids. Kids are dum-dums. Why is Barnaby and the two hired men who should not be working for him anymore are okay with going in there? Like, what is to be gained at this point? Tom's back. The plan failed.
Yeah, Barnaby and everybody they're chasing our heroes through into the forest, which is very okay. I don't understand. I don't understand
motivation,
either.
Please.
Plot advancement.
Yeah.
So so the toy maker is the head of Toyland. They're in Toyland property, and this makes the kids very happy, and they're basically in a rush to be taken to meet their fates. And so the trees kind of have everyone line up and like, yeah, we'll line up and we'll march through the forest, skipping around and go to Toyland. That sounds awesome. And
they're all trying to be serious. The trees are like, they're like, yeah, we'll line up. And they're like, yes, you will. And they're like, yeah, let's go. Yes, we will go.
Yeah. And the trees are basically like, you're going to die. And the kid's like, but you said toy. That's all you had to hear.
So let's go. Yeah, we will. Hey, we're running this show.
The trees march our party to the edge of the forest, telling them that they cannot go back. They can never, ever return to the forest. And this is where they stop. Ahead is Toyland, a massive city made of what looks like gingerbread, sprawls out in front of them.
There's candy and gum and slinkies,
nobody
all sorts of stuff.
At all listens to the trees. And the kids are very happy just to jet ahead towards Toyland, where they can never leave. Running across the bridge, they reach the gates and begin pounding on the large doors in front of them. Mary notices a sign that reads "closed for alterations," and instead of trying to go home or, manage their life at all, the kids run around the corner and try to peek in all the windows to see what's going on. And what they find is the toy maker being shown a machine that can make any kind of toy, which is an invention of his assistant Grumio. Just unfortunate name.
Yeah, well, they look through these dirty windows and they're like almost 90% of the toy factory is like gross and overgrown and completely unused. And we're given no reason ever why.
Oh, no.
We don't need it. Why is production halted here
everybody?
In Toyland?
Yeah. The toy maker is very pleased and wants to turn this machine on himself. Hold on. The toy maker is very pleased with the invention from Grumio, and he wants to turn the thing on himself to full production mode because apparently they're getting ahead of, they're getting behind on schedule for Christmas or something like that. I don't know.
He's contracted with Santa, I guess, maybe, or something.
Yeah, before the tariffs kick in.
Yeah.
Of course, toy maker is a bumbling old man, and he sets the machine to make 4 million toys at super speed, which naturally overloads the darn thing, and it ends up exploding. And the toy maker and Grumio are left sitting in a pile of rubble that once was a grand machine with gears and spinny things and a bunch of stuff that inflated and deflated.
Oh, and it had this like dope like readout screen and everything.
Cool,
like when it was actually really neat for 61. It was kind of a cool invention.
Yeah. The toy maker tells Grumio to go to his room and invent something to destroy himself with, which is pretty. Why don't you go invent something to destroy yourself? Like, wow. I mean, dude. Okay. Our heroes I feel like the toy maker now would be a great troll online. Yeah. Why don't you just go off yourself, dog?
Go make an invention that makes you disappear.
Our heroes have seen enough and they turn away from the window and go talk to the toy maker. Apparently, the toy maker is now unable to make toys for the kids for Christmas. And since the time is already half past October, he's out of time, basically. Tom volunteers everyone to work in the toy mines for the toy maker.
But what are you doing here?
We're arrested. The tree said for us to report to you.
Well, naturally you have to report to me. I'm not only the head toy maker, I'm also the mayor of Toyland and the chief of police.
We've noticed you have quite a problem, sir.
Yeah, it's quite a problem, yeah.
Well, is there anything we can do to help?
Half past October. The deadline near. The children will have no Merry Christmas.
Mr. Toymaker, we're strong and we're willing to work. I think we'd make a fine assembly line.
And we'd work day and night, wouldn't we, children? We sure. Please let us help you.
You want to work? Nobody wants to work these days.
It's not automation, sir, but we've got our hands to use.
Well, maybe I could try it. What have I got to lose? All right, folks, I'll put you to work. I've been such a dope. As long as there are people, we should never give up hope.
So there's a couple of things here. Number one, please let us work here from mid-October through December. Let's do that instead of, trying to get back home or help you clean up first. And then we can get out of here because we want to help, but also we have stuff to do. And also like nobody wants to work anymore. Like, gee, what is this? 2024?
I know. Well, can I remind everyone, we came in here for sheep. We didn't come here looking for jobs. Okay. We already have jobs. It's the sheep, and the children had jobs being orphans. And I don't know what Tom does. I think he's a trust fund child, but now it's so weird that they have not acknowledged the fact that the trees have told them they can never leave this land ever. There's no, like, they haven't mourned the fact that they can't go home again.
Well, yeah, because they don't get it. Like the little kid goes, yeah, the trees told us to come in here, but that's it.
Yeah.
So maybe just think the trees are like, oh, that's just the trees. They just talk shit all the time, dude. It's fine.
What the hell, the trees? No, they don't go to school.
Yeah.
But it's like now it's become this thing where not only have they not acknowledged the fact that they're prisoners and can't leave, it's now they're like, oh, please let us stay.
Yeah. And
please let us stay. We want to work for 4 months or 3 months.
Yeah. And let us slave away on the toy timeline. Please, sir, please let us
knowing
work.
that you have no other staff and this place is completely they're undermanned. The equipment's garbage. Please, we'd love to help you hit this timeline.
Again, the culture wars strike as the toy maker complains that nobody wants to work these days. That sounds too familiar.
God, that is so haunting.
But he gives it a shot anyway, and we get a song and a new scene as the kids start putting toys together with no training at a long table in the toy workshop. And now I finally understand why this is a Christmas movie. A steam whistle sounds, and that signals the end of the workday, and the kids are actually upset that they have to go to bed and stop working, which is crazy, but I guess not more than the wholesale acceptance of their new life here in the toy factory. Tom and Mary share a song, and just as things are getting good, Grumio comes in and spoils it all. I think they're about to kiss again finally or something like that. I don't know. He's desperate to show the toy maker his new invention, which is a shrink ray. Well, the toy maker thinks that's about the coolest thing ever, and he goes around his room shrinking his stuff. That is, until Tom asks him where they're going to get the big things to shrink down to toy size with that gun. Upset, the toy maker throws the shrink gun out the window and into the waiting hands of Barnaby and his men. Everyone goes back to bed except the toy maker, and for some reason, Barnaby aims the shrink ray at this nice old man and poofs him into a little small 4-inch tall guy. Barnaby tells his men that he's going to do the same thing to Tom and finally get him out of the way so he can marry Mary. But in a change of heart, the two oafs stand up and say no, they are not going to help. Like, that's kind of mean. So, of course, they get blasted into small little guys too. The lesson here, never argue with a man holding a shrink ray.
Yeah, the poof gun is what they call it. Yeah, you always poof, but you never poof.
No. Barnaby barges into Mary's room and tells her that he's come for her, finally. She screams for Tom, and Barnaby pulls out a little package from his cape. It's Tom. Here, I got some audio of that, too.
Good evening.
Mr. Barnaby, what are you doing here?
I've come for you, my dear.
How dare you come into my room? Tom! Tom!
No need to scream. Your little Tom is quite close by. And I do mean your very little Tom.
Oh, no, no.
I will now at last have your hand in marriage.
Never, never, never.
May I remind you that just a little overdose of this...
Stop! I'll do anything you say.
Of course you will. Come, my dear.
So he pulls out Tom, who's already shrunk, and he's like wrapped up in green ribbon. And under threat of shrinking Tom even smaller until he actually just disappears, Mary agrees to marry Barnaby. So we have the toy maker now in this next scene acting as the pastor or, whatever, and conducting the marriage ceremony. Meanwhile, the henchmen are locked up in a birdcage and Tom is propped next to them, watching along as the best man, which I thought was very vicious. He's like, oh, we have the best man here. And Tom's like, yeah. Oh. I'm like, that's ruthless, dude. Kudos to this man. All seems lost for our heroes, but just as things look hopeless, the henchmen untie Tom and he escapes into the next room where he harnesses the power of toys to gather an army of toy soldiers, toy Indians, and toy airships to lead an attack on Barnaby and ruin his big day. Classically, because we've never before addressed the fact that the toys can be sentient and come to life. But somehow Tom was able to, I don't know what, and give them all autonomous thought.
Yes, he has, just because he's small now for some reason, he has this energy and ability to like bring these otherwise dead toys to life, which also makes you wonder when you first meet the toy maker. Yeah, he's making a toy that's pre-broken for kids who like taking their toys apart. So is that toy sentient? And he's just like I can't quietly screaming, "Kill me!"
Everything is so okay. So Tom is on like a wooden horse. They ride into the next room. Everything is shooting at Barnaby. They're shooting plastic darts or dropping marbles. I mean, they're toys. Like, what else are they gonna do, right? And Barnaby's like, "Oh no, don't!" He's laughing. It's like this is not a joke.
The lunacy gets turned up to 11.
Absolutely,
in this scene.
Well, eventually, Mary joins in and she picks up a small toy cannon and fires it at Barnaby, just as he was gonna raise the poof gun to shrink Tom down to nothing. Her shot shatters the weapon, releases the powerful smoke stuff that does the actual poofing, and it shrinks Barnaby down to Tom's size. Now things are on an even playing field. The two tiny men pick up swords and they go after each other, running all around the room, climbing over boxes, just going for it, right? Sword fighting and, whatever.
Yeah.
Tom knocks Barnaby off his shelf and he falls into a box and the lid closes after him. Just then, Grumolo runs in, this time with a ray that he invented to make things larger. So he took feedback. This is a good management lesson. He took the feedback on board, addressed it, didn't have his ego hurt at all, and then came back with a solution.
Right.
Everything is returned to normal thanks to the large ray, except for Barnaby, I guess. I don't know. Nothing really. He just kind of lives in this box forever, I think, right? Did I miss that?
I don't think you don't see him again. He got put into the box and then he is gone from the rest of the movie.
He starves away in this box, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, we fade up into Tom and Mary's wedding day. We pick them up as they exit the church. Mary's in the lead and the town folks singing a song as per usual. The two climb into a 2-horse open sleigh. And as they ride through town, it starts to snow. We see all the characters we've come to know and love, like the trees from the Forbidden Forest that kidnapped the children.
Yep, those kind gentlemen are there.
Tom drives the sleigh around the center square one time as everyone dances and sings. And then the two lovebirds take flight.
Yes.
It was weird. Like we see a medium shot of them in the sleigh and then it's at an angle moving away from the town. So, yeah, they're like flying. They fly up.
I had to watch it twice to see what I was seeing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like the end of Grease. Yeah, they just go off into the sky.
The music swells, the curtain falls, and we are finally done. The end. That, my friends,
Thank God,
is the tale of Babes in Toyland.
yes.
So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and Matt's going to take us through a bunch of facts, and I'm looking forward to the title that he gives his facts today. I think it'll be good. And then we'll round off. We'll be right back here on the Buena Vista Boys. All right, thanks for sticking around, everybody. We are back, and we're going to run through some cool stuff that we all found, or mainly Matt, about the Babes in Toyland movie from 1961, starring Miss Annette Funicello. Matt, what did you got here, buddy?
Yes. Well, everyone, so glad to have you here. My section today is called Facts, Truths, Youths, and a Goose. And we're going to start with the classic rundown. Released December 14th, 1961, Babes in Toyland was adapted from the 1903 Victor Herbert operetta of the same name, and it was Disney's first live-action musical. That's what I found.
Nice.
And I have not found anything to go against that. Like,
Okay.
it feel like they would have made a live-action musical before this.
Yeah.
And they made a bunch after, but apparently this was their first, and it had a budget of $3 million, and it apparently did not do very well at the box office, surprisingly. And so it did not get any kind of theatrical re-release, which was common for a lot of Disney movies back then. You know, it'd go out and then they'd bring it back a couple of years later into the theaters. They turned it, as you stated, into a 2-part film on television in 1969. It was like a 2-part event. This was hard to figure out because as far as money, it says it made $4.6 million. It says US Canada rentals. And I tried to check this number multiple places, just try to get like, what were the box office take in 61 in, December, like December to like February? What was that money?
Yeah.
And I really could not find a source for that. If somebody has that, send it over to us. I actually would like to know how much money it made. So I can't guarantee what the 4.6 million was in the time frame, like what time frame that is.
Yeah.
But A.H. Weiler of the New York Times wrote December 15th, 1961 in his review, "Let us say that Walt Disney's packaging of Victor Herbert's indestructible operetta is glittering color and song and dance-filled bauble artfully designed for the tastes of the sub-teen set. Adults would have to be awfully young in mind to accept these picture book caperings of the Mother Goose cotier as stirring stuff.
Wow.
This Toyland is closer to Disneyland. But whoever heard of an adult winning an argument on that issue?" And
okay,
there's a lot there, and if you read the rest of the article, it does not get any less hoity nor toity.
No, well, that's good. At least they're consistent.
Yes, it's all very high-minded. Now, I will say this: it actually goes into like give it a certain amount of praise. This opening, it makes it paint like a little bit like they didn't like it, but I think that they're just acknowledging up top that this is pablum. This is, it's good, but it's like it's candy. It's fine candy.
Yeah,
but it's we're not making Shakespeare here. So I also found, and is this quote that you added, is this part of the article, or is this a different article? The portion that you added in highlight?
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Well, then I'll separate them as two different quotes from two different places. But there is a quote from Tommy Kirk, who appears in this, and I'll start with this. There's a bit of a Shaggy Dog reunion in this movie,
Yeah.
which I was excited to see because I haven't seen this movie in a long time. I forgot that all these people were in it. But we see a Shaggy Dog reunion of Annette, Tommy Kirk, and Kevin Corcoran, who played Little Boy Blue, by the way. If you watch this movie, if you didn't notice the hay and the horn at the very beginning, he was supposed to be Little Boy Blue.
Okay.
And so Tommy Kirk in an interview in 1993 for Scarlet Street magazine said of this movie, the whole movie is, to me, lopsided. It's not a good film. It doesn't quite come off. It has cute stuff in it, but a lot of it's a mess.
I mean,
I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's fair, but I don't think it's any more of a mess than anything else we've seen.
Yeah,
from
I don't
Disney,
think it's honestly. I think it's much more linear than Computer Wear Tennis Shoes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think it's a much nicer, tighter storytelling. Something about this article, I didn't put it in here, but when I was reading some of the article, Tommy Kirk wanted to do this movie mostly because he was going to work with Ed Wynn. I thought that was interesting. That was one of the big motivators to even take the role of Grumio. And so there's another quote here, him talking about the movie. And Kirk says, I also found this, which is funny. Sorry. That was something you wrote. Actually, I think the movie is sort of a clunker, especially when compared to the Laurel and Hardy Babes in Toyland. It's not a great film, but it has a few cute moments. It's an oddity, but I'm not embarrassed about it like I am about some other movies I've made.
Dude, I thought that was vicious. Like, I think every actor, the older they get, they realize,
yeah,
because I think when you're in the middle of doing it, making these movies that kind of suck, you can't tell yourself they suck. Or you're not gonna get another job and you're gonna hate it. So you got to be like, no, it's fine. But then when you're like 60, you're like, dude, that was dog crap.
You wait 35 years. It's like so far, there's no residuals in sight. And you're just like, yeah, that movie sucked.
Yeah, dude,
it's terrible. This movie was directed by Jack Donahue, who, by the way, was the voice of Sylvester the Goose.
Love that.
And we will discuss how he got to be director because it's very interesting. So that is going to be coming up here in just a minute. So many familiar faces from early Disney are in this movie. We talked about the Shaggy Dog reference of Kevin Corcoran, Tommy Kirk, and Annette. And there was a great addition to this movie that I liked is there was a new Corcoran boy, Brian. So one of Kevin's brothers, Brian, appears in this movie. They are multiplying.
I love it.
And I found out that there are 8 Corcoran siblings altogether.
Jeez.
And he has 8 siblings, and don't feed any of them after midnight or they turn into an Osmond.
Right.
He played Wee Willie Winky in this movie, which you wouldn't know.
What does that even mean?
I don't know, because he's in these red PJs and he doesn't run through the town upstairs or downstairs, and he's not in a nightgown. I don't know what is Wee Willie Winky about him in this story.
Okay.
Obviously Annette is in this movie and she plays Annette, like we talked about at the top of the show. Like, she has no second name, unlike everyone else. She is a product, and she was a lock for this role from go. So they had talked about other people with Walt, and Walt was like, it will be Annette and we will not be talking about anything else. Like, all the other roles were up for debate and there were multiple people out for them. This one was not. This was set for her.
Nice.
And that's, again, also why I was like, she's almost like a piece of property. Like, not necessarily in a bad way, but it really did feel like property when they didn't give her a last name, because she was already set. There was no argument. This was Annette. Annette's in this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just a branding thing,
Yeah, absolutely. And so 2 short years from here, just to keep everyone in perspective, she would become a bopping beach babe sensation with her series of American International Picture beach-based teen movies, which started in 1963 with Beach Party.
Which is funny because they're teen movies, but in here she's 19.
Yeah.
And sometimes she looks like 42 and sometimes she looks 12. Like, she does have a range. She has a wide range that she plays. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and in those Beach Party movies, they would all the kids lived in one giant shack. Like, the boys lived upstairs, the girls lived downstairs. So they weren't teens even.
Okay.
They were in their early 20s.
I've never seen them. I just always assumed they were like high school. Okay.
Yeah, no. So on, not to pitch my other show, but on Shelter from Oblivion, at the end of the month, we are going to release our episode on Back to the Beach. And so we go over some of these early beach movies.
Nice.
My favorite is Beach Blanket Bingo. If anyone hasn't seen that, it's really good.
All right.
There's a quote that she had that was really funny. It ties into the beach piece where she says, "It was the first and unfortunately, I think the last time I made a movie in which I actually danced something besides the Watusi or the swim." That's
definitely plays into that beach
totally
theme
true.
for sure. Yeah, man. She found her niche after this and kind of just like,
Yeah.
that's where I am.
And a heartwarming thing too is there was a quote that I saw from her that previously she'd worked with a director that she really didn't like. It was a very bad experience.
Yeah.
And working with Jack Donahue on this movie, she had like the exact opposite. She says it's still one of her most favorite acting experiences doing this movie.
Nice. Good for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. See, so they had a few other guys going out for Tom.
Yeah.
And it was like, so Dean Jones was one of the guys, and he's like the guy from the Herbie franchise and That Darn Cat.
Yeah.
And so, and he had like the same, he was a little older. I don't think he would have worked well, but he had like the same black hair, same, big head.
Oh, sure.
And then Tommy himself was an actor and a teen heartthrob, releasing few songs that would go on to the charts in the UK and the US. He was married to Nancy Sinatra in 1960, but they divorced in 65. The doors to Hollywood seemed to slam shut after the divorce from Nancy. He said, "I couldn't get any acting roles. My singing career on TV and in films was over." Well, that's sad.
Yeah, it is, man.
Don't cross Nancy Sinatra. I don't know what to tell you. Do you know who her father is? What are you doing, you idiot? Actor Ray Bolger, who played the nefarious and rhyme-prone Barnaby Barnacle. A Broadway actor at heart, he was very familiar with the world of song and dance. Most people will recognize him for his most famous role of the Scarecrow in the 1939 MGM version of Wizard of Oz, where IMDb credits him not as the Scarecrow, but as his farmhand named Hunk.
That I didn't know. That's very funny. I read a little bit about this, and apparently, like, there's a book about like the making of the Wizard of Oz, and it was so hot. They had all these lights because of the lumen factor that Technicolor needed at the time to be able to produce the colors they wanted.
Really bounce and really pop.
Yeah, they had a bunch of lights and they were borrowing lights from everyone. And it was so hot on the set that like some of the actors would pass out. And during takes, they would open the doors and all the actors would be outside just basically panting and trying to catch their breath. But poor Ray here as the Scarecrow, they had basically a plastic bag glued to his face as the Scarecrow.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, your skin, you don't know how much you breathe through your skin until you can't do it. And he's like, it was maddening, and it damaged his skin to the point where like some lines on his chin and like his cheeks were permanent because of the adhesion of this plastic bag on his face. He's like, I went through like 100 of them. And it's wild, right? Like he's like permanently scarred from that role.
Yeah, man. Like making movies back in the day, like they take a chunk out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he got his start in vaudeville and was a performer during the opening night of Radio City Music Hall in 1932.
Dude, just like
it's a while back.
Yeah,
it's a while back.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's super interesting, man.
Yeah, and he does an amazing job. I see why they ultimately chose him. He's
great. He's great.
Because it's like you look around at this set and the costumes and everything, and he could have easily phoned that in.
Yeah.
And he clearly he knew what the character was. He made that great little laugh he did in that movie.
He kind of reminds me of Jeremy a little bit. Jeremy is like an older man. Like Jeremy could easily play this dude for Halloween.
Yeah. Jeremy's like skulks around his apartment like him at night. Oh man. And his two cohorts, Gonzago and Rodrigo, Henry Calvin and Gene Sheldon, they were previously co-stars on the 1957 Zorro TV show. They shared 81 episodes together till the series end in 1959. And then Calvin played Sergeant Demetrio Lopez Garcia. Gene Sheldon was also a classic vaudevillian actor and was even on stage at the Golden Horseshoe Review episode of the Walt Disney Anthology television series. He was a banjo player who kept getting his fingers stuck in the strings, and after several minutes, he would finally get them unstuck and play a vigorous riff on his banjo.
Oh, Parks tie-in, man. At some point, as we're getting up in the years, of course, we have Disney film tie-ins, but we got to have Parks tie-ins every now. I mean, that's what I'm expecting. So this is exciting to hear.
Bo Peep, which I would not have recognized if I hadn't gone on IMDb, is played by Ann Gillian. And so I was looking it up for some people and for different, you would know her from different years, but like, let's take the 1980s. So what I knew her from was playing the Red Queen in the Alice in Wonderland miniseries from 1985. A lot of people will remember this. It was a miniseries on television. I think it was like a 2 or 3 parter, and it covered Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. It was absolute nightmare fuel.
Nice.
There is a scene in that show, and I'm trying to find the person's name. There's a moment where one of the characters turns into a sheep.
Oh,
and it's horrifying. And because she cuts her hand, and she's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And she's like, "I'm much better, much better."
Okay.
And she just starts turning into a sheep slowly.
Oh man.
Yeah, a lot of people will remember that. And she's also from the movie Mr. Mom. Yeah, she plays the next door neighbor who tries to hit on him when he thinks that his wife is having an affair with her boss.
Okay.
She like comes over and shoots her shot.
Nice.
Your character name is it's not Anne in that. But it was cool. Yeah, I don't know. I like Ann Gillian. She's nice. And she also is in an episode of The Twilight Zone.
There you go.
1963, the episode Mute, where she plays a mute telepath, Islay Nielsen. And so there's your daily Twilight Zone connection.
There you go.
So this is where we get to a really great part of not only Disney history, but history in this movie and how Jack Donahue got to be director. This is the start. Written by Ward Kimball, veteran animator, director, and man Walt Disney put in charge of designing Tomorrowland. He cut out a huge portion of the orphan subplot for Herbert's storyline in effort to like focus more on the love triangle. So the original story was going to have more of the orphans. They were going to be a bigger impact. And he was like, I'm going to streamline this. He didn't like any of the scripts.
Yeah, I read that there was like three. Yeah, I'm like,
yeah, there were like 3 different scripts. He didn't like any of them.
Which is also, it's like, is it a love triangle? Is it a love triangle, or is it 2 people in love and one guy's trying to take the other person's money? Like,
listen, man, she went up to the house, or like she left to go say she was going to marry him.
Yeah.
So the word love should not be in there. Is it a marriage triangle?
Yeah.
Is it a marrying triangle? Yes.
Is it a triangle? I don't know. I don't even know if it's a shape. It's a nebulous form of like whatever is convenient.
Isosceles.
Yeah. Convenient.
But it's interesting that we bring up Ward Kimball because his name got into the movie as one of the writers, but Ward Kimball did a lot more than that. So in a 2004 article titled Ward Kimball, Animation's Renaissance Man by animator Floyd Norman. I believe you've interviewed, haven't you?
No,
You
no.
interviewed
We
Floyd?
wanted to. We talked about a documentary about him that came out, but no, we never got Floyd on.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, but he recalls there was a fallout between Ward Kimball and Walt Disney over Kimball's work on Babes in Toyland. It's fascinating. So Ward was going to produce and direct the live action musical, and it was exciting. He said it was exciting to watch sets being designed, and Ward was shooting tests with actors. However, there was a misunderstanding with Walt, and suddenly things turned for the worse. Ward Kimball was removed from Babes in Toyland and replaced with new director Jack Donahue. The story doesn't really end there because I just painted a picture of what had happened. But here is what actually occurred. So from Jim Korkis, he did an interview with Ward Kimball in 1996 for Hogan's Alley magazine. This is what Ward said. Walt was stubborn. Once he got something in his head, that was it. I remember one time when he got really mad at me. I was working on the script for Babes in Toyland because if the picture was not put into production soon, the studio would lose the rights to do the story. So while Walt was over in Europe, somebody in the publicity department, to guarantee that the other studios knew Disney was doing the film, put a full-page ad in the trades that read, "Congratulations to Ward Kimball as he starts direction on Disney's Babes in Toyland." Well, Walt had wanted me to direct, but when he got back from Europe and saw the notice, he thought I was pushing myself. So he removed me from the picture.
Damn.
I went in and pointed out that it was the publicity department that had done it. And I even named the names of the guys involved, but Walt was stubborn, and that was it.
Oh man, yeah. I guess you can't tell Walt that he was wrong because he was like, who cares? That's
well, and it's
that's
interesting.
too bad, man.
Yeah, because
Ward pulled his fat out of the fire with Tomorrowland.
Yeah,
and the whole space program videos and stuff like that. Like,
I mean, man,
great.
the years of being with the 9 old men and everything, like. It's wild how quick that can turn.
Well,
and
that's what I've always heard. That's like the one rumor there are interviews to back up about Walt is that he had a very short temper. And basically you don't want to piss him off. And if he says no, he says no. Like he doesn't change his mind.
Yeah. No, and the funny thing about this story is, and I encourage people to go check out the deeper details because there's actually more to this. In the fact that like this is kind of a snapshot of what had happened, but apparently he, being Kimball, while Disney was gone, did a lot more. Like, which I don't think he was doing any of this maliciously. I think he was doing his job, frankly.
Yeah,
and it was just seen as like, oh, these are because he was picking out actors. Like I think he picked Ray Bolger to play Barnaby, and he was signing off on sets and he was okaying things that Walt was technically supposed to do, but Walt's in Europe. We got to make this film.
Right. You got to move it. And, Walt was very good at giving people autonomy too, like with Tomorrowland. He's like, do whatever. I don't like, we just need something done. And so I feel like Ward felt he had enough pull to be like, yeah, I can, this is going to be okay. It's my problem. The director, what else am I going to do?
Well, that's what I'm saying is like he's not technically directing, like that hadn't been given yet from what I'm given to understand, but it was implied and and he was writing the movie already.
Yeah.
And so he was doing all these other pieces that I think he was already okayed to do. And yet when that trade piece went out and it became very official, I think that just hit Walt the wrong way. Like if that piece hadn't gone out, I think all the work he'd been doing probably would have been fine, but it's like him doing things that Walt normally did plus the piece in the trades compounded everything.
Yeah.
So that's just an awesome story. I didn't think anything that interesting was going to come out of this movie. But yeah, so the AP on this movie, Lou Debney, is the father of venerable, wonderful, golden-eared composer John Debney.
Svelte.
Who you
John Debney.
Svelte, who you might know as Jeremy's favorite composer and the man who wrote Spectro Magic, among other things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that. I was like, oh my goodness. Jeremy's going to
Jeremy
flip
was
his
here.
wig, dude.
Oh my gosh. The father of my idol. So the March of the Toys sequence was done by Exitensio and Bill Justice. And I would say a lot about Exitensio, but I feel like almost everybody knows all the things.
Yeah.
All the things. I know way less about Bill Justice. And so I had pulled a little piece that I want to talk about Bill. This is an excerpt from Walt Disney's archives. Bill Justice attended the John Herron Art Institute, where he studied to be a portrait artist. And the reason I bring all this up is because you never know where you're going to go in life. So he started going to school to be a portrait artist, and then we're going to see where he ends up. After graduation in 1935, he headed west and joined the Walt Disney Studios as an animator in 1937. During his 28 years with the company, Bill served as an animator on such classics as Fantasia, Salud Amigos, The Three Caballeros, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, and many, many more.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was already an accomplished animator, right? After going to school to draw portraits. So now Bill gets recognized for his immense talent. Walt Disney taps him to join Walt Disney Imagineering in 1965. There, he programmed audio animatronic figures for such Disneyland attractions as The Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, Mission to Mars, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, Country Bear Jamboree, and America Sings. Bill once said, "One of the most enjoyable Disneyland projects was the Pirates of the Caribbean. Manipulating the figures in each vignette was a multiple challenge."
It was one multiple challenge.
One multiple challenge. Bill went on to help bring to life the cast of Walt Disney World's Hall of Presidents attraction. He also masterminded the Mickey Mouse Revue featured at Walt Disney World and later Tokyo Disneyland. He wrote a book called Justice for Disney.
Oh, God. That's funny.
I know. But man, I really wish that I'd gotten to see the Mickey Mouse Revue. Did you ever get to see video of what that was?
No.
It's like all these little animatronics of like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy, all the extras,
Oh, that's cool.
all the extra characters. And they did a whole big song and dance show, kind of like Country Bear Jamboree.
Nice. Sounds fun.
Yeah, I bet it was a hoot to see.
Yeah, something.
But that's so crazy. He went from like, I went to school for portraits all the way down to like, I am animating and bringing to life early complex animatronics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Why not,
Like,
man?
what a powerhouse, man. So weird. All right. Now I said I stole this directly from Wikipedia, and I'm not going to lie. I did do this.
Hey, man, no one needs to know, you know?
Among the most significant legacies of the film has been its influence in Disney theme parks worldwide. The Babes in Toyland sets were showcased in the Disneyland park as an attraction following the film's release. So, a walkthrough.
Yeah.
we got ourselves a walkthrough. All good things start as a walkthrough. And the toy soldiers became an iconic symbol of the holidays at Disneyland, Walt Disney World Resort, and other Disney parks around the world. Considered a draw and featured heavily in television, online, and print advertising, rivaling the castles and the famous Disney characters in appearances. So, yeah, when it became Christmas time, it's like, let's roll out all these toy soldiers.
Oh, yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah, they're everywhere.
Disney's Babes in Toyland soldiers are the equivalent of the Rockettes appearance at the Macy's thing. So they appear at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And I don't know if they still do. I do remember them being in the parade.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember them at all. But they were kind of a staple.
Yeah, for sure.
The soldiers also appear in the stop-motion nursery sequence in Walt Disney's 1964 musical fantasy Mary Poppins. They were designed by Disney animator and Imagineer Bill Justice, who, with fellow Imagineer Exitencio, created the sequence in the film. Justice designed the park soldiers to match the Babes in Toyland movie soldiers exactly as they appear in the 61 film.
There you go.
And that attention to detail is what I crave. I love that.
That's right. Yeah, I liked it.
And there you go. All you needed to know and nothing less.
Okay. They're very good. That was Babes in Toyland. That's our Christmas episode. I hope you guys, watch it. It's definitely worth it. Is it a tight story? No, not at all.
No.
Is it weird? Yeah, for sure. But visually, it's awesome. They re-released it in Blu-ray format. It's not on Disney Plus anymore, from what I understand. But if you can find it on Blu-ray or other ways, it's worth a watch. It's just to check that, check the colors out, check the sets out, these walking trees. It's fun, man. It's a hoot.
Did you ever see the one with Keanu Reeves and I just had her name, Drew Barrymore?
No.
Yeah, because they made a remake, I think, in the early 90s.
I'm sure they did.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I honestly think that you could get the VHS of it at McDonald's.
Probably. That sounds like something McDonald's would do, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
also,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, before we leave, I wanted to point out they never found those sheep.
They never found the sheep. No, dude. That was one thing that I found very odd, is that the sheep are gone, man. The trees ate them probably.
Yes, when you guys watch this movie, that's how you're going to end. It's going to end. It's the curtain's going to close, and you're going to go, where the hell does goddamn sheep go?
Right? Absolutely. All right, well, that's it, everybody. That is our Babes in Toyland episode. We have one more episode planned for you before we take a little break from season 1 and jump into season 2. On my notes, I have it as A Tiger Walks is the last one. But, I don't know. Maybe we should talk about it. Should we end on a bang? Or I don't know anything about A Tiger Walks. I have no idea. So
I've never seen it, never heard of it.
Okay, so I don't know. But you know what? Watch it anyway, and then if we decide to do it, we'll you'll be caught up. But we're gonna do it eventually. But we have one more episode. We'll probably drop that probably at the beginning of January. Give everyone a little time for the holidays to take a little break, and all that kind of fun stuff. So thank you very much for participating in this show. I do appreciate it, and hope you guys have a safe and magical holiday and a great new year. And we will see you guys in 2025.
Happy all the holidays, everyone.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.
Go to your room and invent something to destroy yourself.